call the Board of Works meeting to order. This should not take long this evening. We have a very, very short agenda, but I guess we can sit here and discuss some things, openly discuss concerns, issues. Since Bill's been gone for so long, it'd be good to maybe catch him up on some things. But you were emailed a copy of the minutes from our March 20th meeting, Craig. Did you have a chance to?
I did.
Would you like to make a motion to approve those?
I'd like to make a motion to approve those.
And I'll second that motion. All in favor? Aye. And opposed, the same. And since I already missed roll call, could we have roll call, Phyllis?
Craig Koshaw.
Here.
Bill Carbon.
Here.
Ken Mike.
And that's here. Wiley, would you want to come up while I'm going to discuss this at the Board of Works meeting, then probably bring it up again at the council meeting. That's the...
Okay, are you ready for it now?
Yeah. It's the only thing on the agenda.
I've got a couple of things.
Tim has a couple of things. The founders, do you want to do yours first? We can bring his in later.
Yeah, he's only 22 minutes.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Let him handle it. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Wiley, we're going to let Tim go first.
Okay. Craig brought up, asked some questions again about the memorandum of understanding on what the sheriff is proposing. So I think what we need to do is be looking at that, because this is going to come up fairly soon, I think, with a kind of a deadline to either accept or reject the proposal. So if you're looking at doing anything in terms of an alternative proposal, that needs to be developed and presented to the county. If you're going to accept this, then what will happen is once all of the parties to the agreement have accepted and signed on to the memorandum, a more definitive and comprehensive agreement would be put together, and that's what would then be presented for final adoption. The memorandum, as it was revised by Stacy after I talked to him, at least doesn't lock us in the way the language initially did.
But that we're committing to a certain percentage of...
What it does do is it basically says that we are in principle agreeing to the percentage contribution.
Without knowing what the amount is.
Without knowing the amount. So whether you want to say we're not going to sign this till we know what the amount is, we're not going to sign it because we don't think the percentages are right and we propose a different suggestion. Those are things that I think you need to really take a look at, and you and council, because it also involves council from the standpoint that budgeting has to be involved in this, whether it's something that we're going to budget to fund whatever this agreement is, or whether we're going to budget to do something on our own if we refuse to go along with the county's proposal. So just give that some thought here in the next few weeks, because this is going to come to a head pretty soon here. And most likely it's going to be when we get to starting the process of budgeting for 2019. Right. Okay. Second thing is Melissa had emailed me with an inquiry regarding the possible, a gentleman, Rick Clark, had inquired about possibly using the North Adams Art Council building that's being leased from the city, the old police station.
Have you talked to her about this? She's not here, I see.
I don't know. No, I just got this. She sent it to me last week when I was down in Florida. So I emailed her back and raised some issues, one of which was, the lease agreement with the council does not permit subleasing unless it's consented to in writing by the city. And there's other issues. The first is a liability concern. So we require insurance from the council. I would think that if there were going to be somebody else there using it, that we would want similar insurance that would protect not only us but the council, because the council's on the hook at that point then. The third thing is that there was some rental fee that would be paid for the use of the building, as I understand it, but the question then is, what's the amount of the rent, and does that go to the council, does it go to the city, does it get shared? That I don't know. the other thing that I'm concerned about is that if this is a for-profit business, in other words, this person is actually using it as a means of generating profits for himself, that potentially makes the property taxable for real estate taxes. And so then you get into an issue, okay, who's going to pay that? And, you know, is it worth doing? Because what rental income you might get may be more than offset by the tax liability. So,
That's kind of how we did the depot, though. We leased that out, and then they paid property tax on it.
okay, so if that's the case, then you just have to build that in somehow into whatever the lease, the sublease would be, that if there's a tax liability, that's an additional expense to that person. That may kill the deal anyway, because it could be enough that that person isn't willing to incur that expense. So
right now, the only thing that's happening at that North
It's
Adams
just an
Council
inquiry.
building, but the only thing that's going on right there right now are just things that they are doing themselves, their own, whatever classes they might be doing, and nobody else is doing anything, they're just them, and they're not allowing anybody else to use it.
Are you talking about the old police station?
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
that. I'm just saying that.
You
The
know?
old police station.
Yes, I do.
Right, it's the old police
Anyone
station.
that comes to our council, we make sure that they have a background check. Teachers are subcontractors, so they come in and work under the council, usually board member.
So you are already leasing it out, subleasing it?
No,
That's not how it works. They're under our...
They're doing it through the council, so it's a not-for-profit.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's supervised through our not-for-profit, the teachers and...
Right.
educators.
This is different as I understood it, because this individual is totally separate from the Arts Council.
He doesn't want to be part of the council. He wants to use the building only because he's trying to teach an art class. Although I brought up at the meeting with him that there's a potential for us to coach his teachers. Because with his business plan, if you look, I don't want to go into more detail than necessary, but we can't figure out how to work it out with what he wants to do with the points Tim brought up, insurance, and we want to be open to the arts, but I don't think we
Yeah.
can in this area.
Yeah, so those are my concerns, so if it, you know, for what it's worth, I just wanted to share that with you, okay?
What, do I need to act on it or do anything?
Well, Melissa may bring it up, you know, or you may discuss it with her. It was just an inquiry, I think, on this gentleman's part about whether it could be used. You know, we'd need a lot more information because it's subject to city approval. So if he wants to make a formal presentation and show how these issues are going to be addressed to the satisfaction of the city, and the Arts Council is willing to sublet the building to him, you know, the city possibly could approve that, but it's going to require that process to go forward. Okay? All right. You inquired about the a temporary agreement with Belmont. I've looked this over.
Oh, for SRO?
Yeah, for SRO.
Yeah, fine.
And, I know. So, you know, for the time being, if that's satisfactory with,
Does it look okay?
yeah, it's simple,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
For now.
yeah, for now, and then it's going to have to be on a more comprehensive basis when we're fully staffed.
But it's a council.
And
isn't it?
whether it's this agreement or some further modifications, that's up to, I guess, Lenny and
Well, you...
Trent
I'll
and...
put it this way.
So, but this, not this paper here, but the actual agreement here.
Both. This one, this is what you're saying is...
That's temporary.
Right,
yeah.
I understand.
But this here, with all the things I highlighted that I added in, still you say it's not...
I'm just
wouldn't
saying,
serve-
I'm just saying that you need to make sure that there aren't any further changes before... This is the only...
Permanent.
Yeah, you know, I don't know, has this been approved by Brent?
No, I'm going
Okay.
to review it before I send it to him.
Okay. Well, I think you can go ahead and send it to him for his review, but tell him that, you know, there may still be further modifications.
There
Depending on
I don't know, the legislature, you never can predict, but in May, when they go back,
They may have
they may
some,
put some more
there
money.
may be some more funding available because of what happened down in Florida.
Right,
Right.
right. They couldn't make it happen in regular session,
Right.
but
So-
I'm feeling something will show up.
That's what I'm saying, is there may be a need to make some further modifications to this for that reason. Okay?
Yep.
Um,
I'll go ahead and send some road for the good.
The other thing that Melissa brought up some time ago was this contract on HCI with the grant.
Oh, yeah.
Gee, many Christmas. First of all, they sent it to Melissa back in May of last year. Melissa, I think, got it to me. She had asked some questions. It took forever for them to get back with her. Finally, I don't know if they made some revisions, but she got something back, sent it to me. I think it was in January. I looked at it. I asked a bunch of questions after I reviewed it. She sent that to them. She finally got a response back on March 8th, and the very first question that both she and I raised was the completion date for us to have completed our capstone project was supposed to be done by December 31st of 2017. So I said, well, okay, that's not going to happen. So
So how can we sign it?
I said, that date should be changed, and they won't change it. They said, we have to sign it because of the way the grant was set up, we have to sign it, even though that says that, and then they'll modify it. So that's their explanation.
I can sign it and make a note on there that,
Nope, we just sign it, and then we're going to have to modify it. And there's provisions in the agreement for modification, but it makes no sense to me the way they're saying that it has to be done. I'm just telling you, it's a grant, they're going to do it the way they say it has to be done. So even though it doesn't make sense to me,
grant that I wish we never would
Grant.
have applied for. It's for
it's a
HCI.
$5,000 grant.
Oh, is
Matching
that the
grant.
HCI?
Yes.
Yes, you applied for that for probably 3 years.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's a whopping $5,000. Yeah, yeah.
And then there's, and then the grant contract refers to Office of Management Budget Circulars, of which we're then required to follow. Well, I can guarantee you those things are about this thick. Okay, it's a lot of federal laws and rules and regulations, and, whether we comply with them fully or not, I almost guarantee that we don't, but we're saying we will.
But will there be anyone to look it up?
It's subject to an audit, and the likelihood of that ever happening is
Going that
probably
deep.
pretty remote.
Well, they do it with our regular audit. Anything that we get through grants
Okay.
will be audited then.
No, but this is a federal audit, not,
Yeah. It'll be
federal audit?
typically all included in our grants. And when we get audited, the
Okay.
city.
well, anyway. So we need to be aware of what those requirements are, is what I told Melissa. So, there were other things in here about non-discrimination, affirmative action, hiring handicapped individuals, disabled, and Vietnam veterans. They're saying we're not requiring you to do that, simply means that you can't discriminate in your hiring practices overall. So, there's also reference in here that we have to include some language about whistleblower notification. Says they don't require any documentation, you just have to inform your employees in writing of whistleblower rights and protections.
Isn't that in our
Policy.
Is that in
I
our
think it's in our
policy?
policy,
It
so-
it's customary anymore.
I think it is, and I think that'll address it.
Yeah.
Okay. Phyllis, it did require a separate account to be maintained, and I asked her to check with you to see if that, is that, how you do with,
Ask me about it, but
is that a problem?
no.
Okay. There's also all kinds of reporting requirements, which I'm assuming Phyllis is fully familiar with, because any grant probably requires it. Yeah. Yeah. In the future, I'm not sure that the amount of work involved is worth a $5,000.
Still more than that.
Going down,
good until all of that.
well, going into it, we thought that what we would learn from it, the learning experience of it alone was going to be
worth it.
worth it, and ultimately, it's just not been.
Burned out a lot of volunteers.
Yeah, yeah. So, Tim, what should I do? With it?
Well, if you want the $5,000 grant, yeah.
Has any of that money come in yet? No, it won't. It won't until we do
I
our
think you
capstone.
had to spend all the money first, and then they reimburse you.
Yeah.
Which is typical anymore, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
They don't want you earning any interest.
Now,
That's from the bottom line.
here's the bottom line. You know, if you don't do this, if you don't sign the agreement, it may damage our relationship with Okra.
Okra.
So that's the downside of saying the heck with this, we're just walking away. So
Sign it.
I would say we probably are best to go ahead and sign it and then modify it to extend the period that we have to complete the capstone project, and live with the reporting requirements and the other things that Phyllis has to do in order to comply with the grant terms. But in the future, I'd think long and hard about whether we want to pursue a $5,000 grant.
Mm-hmm. Especially when we...
I agree.
We've got, I would venture to
We
say
need a
that with the
motion on that?
volunteers, we have probably hundreds of hours.
Oh, yeah.
Easy, hundreds of hours.
Well, that Riverside Center affair that we had over there, we had 200 people inside Riverside, sticking Post-it notes and all that stuff on it. And as I remember...
We were all, that was the first meeting, we were all fired up that night.
Right, and our leader, wife pregnancy, new child, delay, weather delay, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that it was all the state's fault. This human factors came into play. Let's just follow it through.
All right, yep.
So,
I'll make a motion. Do we need a motion on that?
For the record?
Yeah, I think you probably, is
Can-
Melissa going to be here at all later?
Yeah, she'll be here.
Okay, well, you may want to double check with
She
her.
might be in her office, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I just run it by her, but it's her, she signed it subject to your approval, so.
On this first thing that we talked about earlier, I'm sorry, if you need a motion, I'll make a motion that we do whatever
Authorize this to be signed and
The
submitted
HCI
to,
contract to be signed.
upon report from
Have a
Melissa.
motion,
to the-
Bill?
Second.
Bill seconds it, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same, thank you.
Next thing I was have a question on, would it be a good idea, we talked about this prior to the meeting,
What is that?
this is about that memorandum of understanding between this county and the communities, the cities. Would it be a good idea to possibly form a committee with all involved to work out the details and come back and report to the city of Decatur? Maybe we could get somebody that would volunteer to be on a committee to represent Decatur, just to get the understanding of, a little more understanding.
What kind
Because
of-
we have some questions on the percentage stuff, and there's just some clarity that I think we need to know that you were just explaining.
yeah, well,
Before we
I
go
don't-
into a final...
yeah, I don't have any problem with that. The problem is that we did that. We actually,
Well, you've already done this.
well, we did with,
Few meetings.
yeah, with Greg Cook and with Les. They sat in on numerous meetings with the sheriff, the Burns
People from
chief, the
Monroe,
Geneva.
Okay.
They all sat in on these, and the problem is that, you know, when the meetings that I attended, there were just a lot of questions that didn't seem to get answered. And it would tend to get to a point where so many people were asking questions that eventually either Stan Stoppenhagen or Doug would kind of stand up and say, you know, we're not making any headway here. Let's let the sheriff go back and rework the figures or come up with some additional information, and then maybe we can get back together. So that's been done probably 2 or 3 times at least. You know, one of the things that I'm still not clear about is what exactly are the dollars that we're talking about.
Exactly.
whether it's the upfront costs and the long-term costs, because there's an ongoing expense that's going to be tied to this, and there's assurance, almost certain, that those expenses are going to escalate.
We need that to know so we can budget it.
Exactly. And that's, I've said that, but I don't know if those figures aren't readily known, or if they don't want to be shared. I'm not being critical. I think Shane is trying to look ahead and figure out how to address issues that are going to need to be addressed on a long-term basis, and I give him credit for that. But
Now, let me ask a question. The way the percentages are, Craig, you got that paper there?
I do.
It's not, it is now not set up to where Decatur is paying double, correct?
well,
They're asking us our population, based off the population, which is the same formula for seated.
Right, yeah,
We're looking
okay.
at 27% of whatever that
Yeah,
price is.
but then people who do not live in a municipality and live in a rural area are going to pay how much percent?
55%.
Okay.
Unincorporated portions of Adams County, 55%.
So see, we're not paying twice.
well,
Are we?
you can argue that you are, because,
Well, if we are, so is everybody, though.
no.
Well, wait a minute, you're right. You look at it, I mean, think about it. If we're all paying once, then we're all asking to be paid twice, because 55% is non-incorporated.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I said, is that nobody's paying, if we're paying twice, so is everybody else.
Yeah, at a percentage basis on the population.
Well, Bern, Decatur, Geneva, and Monroe are.
Paying twice.
Well, that,
Oh, I see why, because they want to, yeah, they're going to take their 50-some% out of...
something we've already contributed to.
Exactly. There you go. Now I'm with you.
The 55% does represent everybody in the county,
Yeah.
and then...
No, wait a minute. No, that represents 19,408 people in the county.
Yeah,
But there's 35,232.
but they're going to take that 50-some% out of money that we have paid into. See, we're part of the county, and they're going to take that out of money we've contributed to. That's how we pay twice, the municipalities. And that's what Mayor McKean is just, he's
Adamant about it.
adamant.
Okay. Well, I think that's what we need to find out.
Well, the fact that the county has written this, that's the problem, The county's going to write it to benefit the county.
What, to me, a simple solution to all of this, if the county decided, just like they did with the county hospital, to increase the local income tax by probably 0.1%, or even maybe less than that, they would generate enough new revenue to cover this, and we're all paying into that
Same
pot,
amount.
Because it's
the
going
same
to
amount.
So it's a political situation to where they want us to take from our coffers and pay into it instead of just raising the whole county tax and make everybody pay.
Yeah.
Well, and
I get
that was brought up, and at that time...
They're not
there was-
going, those commissioners aren't going to...
Well, it's not the commissioners, it's the county
Council.
council.
Right.
That would have to do that, but the other issue is that there was some discussion about whether the amount of seeded funds that were pledged to the hospital for retirement of its debt service was going to continue to be needed.
Yeah.
And if not, then could those funds be diverted to cover these costs?
No answer was given, right?
I've never heard an answer
Yeah.
to that, so I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying, and I'm not trying to torpedo this, I'm saying that you have to be aware that this is coming up. If you don't address it some way where it's an agreement with the other municipalities in the county, we may be faced with doing our own dispatching again, and then the question is that going to be a cost prohibitive venture? Okay?
I think we all think it's a needed deal,
Yeah.
but we just don't need
It's
to
just
pay
how
it.
it gets funded.
Yeah, they just need to raise the tax throughout the whole county and fund it.
Yeah, I mean, I
That's their
think
problem.
realistically, it probably makes sense to cooperate with one another to
Yeah.
share the load, but the question is, what is the fairest way to do that?
What's the process for it?
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Tim.
Then have a good evening. Founders Park, we'll mention this now, and then we'll get council's input on it also, since it's gonna affect money.
Right.
When we talked about it a month or so ago, there was a couple of reasons. One, I think Craig had kind of recused himself from voting. That only left me, because Bill wasn't here.
Right.
And then two, we were questioning about the utility costs over there, what the kiosk was costing for utilities.
Yeah, and the cost has come down. The last bill was 91. It typically has been, since before the kiosk, it would run around $30, somewhere in that ballpark. And then we had the increase with the kiosk, but then we also had Christmas lights, so there was a lot of, by monitoring the bills, it looks like it could be in the, between $70, $80 a month. However, we also now have another factor in that, we found out when we met with Andy Lehman about 3 weeks ago, it does not have an actual thermostat inside it. So that means it's remotely set, and we couldn't tell what that was. Andy said he would put a thermostat in. That has not been done to my knowledge yet. When it was running, when we were checking on it, and he said it really didn't need to be running then. So we could have a much better control over it. In the winter time, it's actually okay to run kind of cold because computers like cold. And he said it could run up to 90 degrees. Didn't he say 90? Or was it? I think he said up to 90 degrees in the winter. Or I mean, in the summer.
Right.
But also part of its issue is it is black, so it is going to absorb heat. So we need to get that thermostat in, and then we can have better control of it. So I would not predict it to be any higher than 80-some, until Christmas or, those kinds of things. So we did have at our last Main Street Board meeting, we discussed, I shared this with them again.
Mm-hmm.
They were fine with between Main Street and city to divide the bill, the electric bill in half.
Okay.
And we'd each take our share there.
Phyllis, what would you do do we get the utility bill, or do you? Who gets it now? Phyllis gets it.
Phyllis gets it now, and then what she's been doing, then we take it over the Main
Then I send
Street.
them over to Karen.
Yeah,
Karen Berger.
so Phyllis could probably just say, hey, Karen, can you,
Or I
make a
could-
copy and
And she could write a check to the
write a
city.
check of X
Okay.
amount.
That work for you?
Works for me if I'm okay to
Yeah, go ahead.
vote.
Well, I don't remember. Was that you said he recused himself, didn't you, Phyllis?
Yeah.
Yeah, Craig
did,
pulled
okay.
himself
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, because I think
Because
Chamber
of the Chamber and Main
Main
Street.
Street were
now.
Tied together, so
Tied
it would be
together.
best if Bill would make that motion.
Yeah, and what we're looking at, Bill, is that the city take over these areas of responsibilities.
Sure.
We'll still we'll work together, of course, but the primary things, and these are more the money areas.
And you're talking half utilities?
Yeah.
Okay,
and half
now, on the
utilities.
utilities, you'll have a water bill
on
coming out.
the electric portion, though still the water,
Yeah,
that
it's
would be,
to water and sprinkler.
yeah, that would be
That'd
the
be
cities.
cities.
Yeah, but it'd be.
So we are
it'd be
taking that
electric.
over? Okay. Just so you know that in council's fund, we didn't budget for any of this year,
Okay,
and we're already a little over in the electric.
okay.
So, just so council knows,
Well,
we may need to transfer some money by the end of the year into that account if we do run short, because this wasn't expected.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to share the duties of Founders Park, City Decatur with said duties, and Decatur Main Street with said duties.
Yep, with the utilities being,
The electrical.
electric utility being split between the city and Main Street,
Right.
and the water utility being the city's.
City.
Okay. Oh,
What else is there, so I know what to pay for?
As far
I
as,
don't know, I think I...
the copy I printed off is the old copy. Do you have one of those
Here.
copies?
Do you have something now?
yeah,
Here's what I've had from the last...
that may be an updated one. We made a
We moved the most from
change.
here over here. Yours is current.
Mine is, right.
That's current.
Okay.
Yeah.
As far as, like utilities.
Well, maybe we need to get Jeremy's okay on this.
He was,
He's gonna do the maintenance.
well, Jeremy verbally gave me the
Oh, he
okay.
did?
Jeremy
Okay,
was
well,
fine. Jeremy was good.
Did you look at this, Jeremy?
He's seen it. And also.
Boy, the can gets kicked down the road, doesn't it?
Did you get a copy
Okay,
of this?
Bill, I'll second Bill's motion.
Can I take this?
Sure.
Jeremy needs to be aware of what he needs to do, though.
But he is, he's,
We've been
I emailed
talking
this
to
to
him.
him.
Oh, he did? Oh,
Yeah.
then he's lying
Yeah,
to me.
yeah,
He just gave us a hard time, or a while hard time.
I don't know if I saw that, honestly.
Jeremy, you and I talked about it, and you said, yeah, you were fine with it. But
We'll try to make it as efficient.
I saw that.
Yeah, see?
We'll try to make it as
All
efficient
right,
as
all in
possible.
favor? Bill and I, opposed, the same. Craig recused himself because of
Thank
his
you.
affiliation. All right, that's that. And that really takes care of everything we had on the agenda.
Do we want to announce the Plan Commission's approval of the new McDonald's
Yeah, tonight?
and give them, if everything goes right with them, they want to start on May 8th and be done in
72 to-
72 to 82 days.
It was 78 to 82 days.
Yeah.
That
They
worked
beat
very
Wendy's?
McDonald's.
No,
McDonald's.
they gonna beat Wendy's in
Oh.
their time?
Yeah.
Those guys moved.
Well, that's a quick turnaround.
Very quick.
Of course, I know they have, like cookie cutters.
The only thing,
Their solution is when you exit, you're supposed to only turn right.
That is what the proposal to the planning commission was.
coming out
That's the way the motion was
on to
made.
Marshall.
So are we gonna expect our cops to sit out there? People are gonna go left.
Well,
If you look at the plan though,
yeah,
Yeah, if you look at it,
work to get to Marshall Street.
right,
The lazy person is gonna go out on nothing because they're not gonna drive all the way back around.
exactly.
First way
if you go, yeah,
So it's like the second way to
Get
get
the
out.
second way out, I mean.
It mainly was put in for their delivery people.
most people that go to McDonald's or Wendy's, I mean, nowadays, I believe it's like 70 or more % of the business is done through the drive-through. When you go through that drive-through, you're not headed toward Marshall Street, you're headed back toward Nutman Avenue. So you're not going to even exit there. The only people that may want to exit there would be people who eat inside, which is a very small portion of their business, if they're parked on that side of the building,
Yeah.
if they're not parked on the 13th Street side. So even out of the 30%, now it's maybe half of them, so maybe 15% of their customers might want to exit there. So,
And I don't know if it's a police, it won't be a police thing because it won't be a police ordinance,
yeah.
okay? It's more
not our
of
sign,
a
it's
courtesy
McDonald's
for
sign.
Belmont Package. We kind of put it in there because they don't want a bunch of people pulling out
Blocking there.
and taking a left and blocking their parking. So we're hoping the people that actually pull out are not going to be the ones that go south. They're going to, if they come out on Marshall, they're going to be the ones that go north. So it won't be a long line because traffic will flow pretty good there, so.
I did get an email today, trying to remember the guy's name. His name is Gary McElwain.
That name sounds familiar.
Gary McElwain, Adam Miller sent him paperwork to sign for the deed to the house on Winchester Street,
Oh.
across from the Boys and Girls Club. He said the deed is signed and sealed, just dropped in the mail. Also sent an affidavit stating that the records were the Great Council of Indiana improved order of the Redmond official records and that I have a full authority to act on their behalf. Thanks for all you've done. Gary McElwain, great Chief of Records, Great Council of Indiana. So, once that comes to Adam Miller will bring it over here and we'll have a deed to that property. And as I emailed all of you the other day, that I think that the chance of that becoming anything down the road is pretty slim because it's in really bad shape. And most likely it'll get raised. I did contact the Boys and Girls Club just to see what they thought about the possibility of something going in there, and she was going to run it by her board. Also, it's right next to our trail, which is would be another concern if anything went in there. In addition to that, we've got the survey for the Chronister building, and we've got the contract signed from Mr. Chronister. So we will now be having a closing on or before the 20th of April, and we will be paying him $1 for the property. So what our hope is that Jeremy and Don will be running a piece of equipment. They'll be taking this building down, and while they have that piece of equipment, likely be taking the house down on Winchester Street at the same time, or not at the same time, but consecutively. Yeah. So,
Chairman, we let Hank know that you're taking those down.
We have been, but he's still grumpy.
yeah.
Who?
Hank Mayer.
One time I was out there dumping trash.
You city,
You gotta let me know when you're gonna bring out stuff. And I said, Hank, last time I checked, you were at a transfer station.
He's almost out, he's short.
Last week when I was in Florida, Marty called up and said, I'm gonna bring us 7 loads from Florida. This out of Backyard. Or excuse me, 6 loads. At the 6th load, the driver was catching all kinds of heck.
He was over 6.
But that was number 6, and that was it. But they were only like little half-ton loads, they're not,
Okay, that's all I had to kind of report on to the Board of Works.
I'd like to take that, just as an input, and I've told the mayor, I'd like to take that, property on Winchester, Redman's Lodge, and actually, raise the building there, because it is a mess, and raise the little building. There's a little garage shed out in back. And get rid of the items that Mr. Hart left there, and actually make that a start of our trailhead.
Another trailhead. Yeah.
Another trailhead, maybe with a, if we can get a gazebo donated or at a reduced cost, and maybe Jeremy indicated since we have water lines in there, maybe we can have a drinking fountain in there, and maybe some additional parking that people want, if they want to park and start at that point, walking on the trail.
I think that's the best long-term idea.
And could there be some sort of sign dedicating it to the Redmond?
Not the Redmonds.
Or no?
Oh, well, yeah.
They don't even care.
No.
Care less.
No.
So that we don't, I mean, they wouldn't care.
Yeah, we're doing them a favor.
That we would make any connections to them over the years. Okay.
No. In fact, the whole story of this thing, which is really funny, this whole thing started when I cited the property for junk, trash, and debris. And I told Sharon, I said, let's send the owners of this a notice. And we thought it would be this Hart gentleman. Because he came into Schultz's office one day when I was there and said that the Redmonds is going to give him that property. And we thought that was a great idea because he indicated he was going to clean it up and everything. Well, we found out I went over to the auditors and found out it still belonged to the Redmonds. And this is 3 years after Mr. Hart's been living there, not paying any taxes or nothing. He just taking advantage of the Redmonds Lodge. He was a squatter, exactly. And so we got a hold of Redmonds and said, hey, what are you going to do here? This building is falling down. are you gonna fix it? Well, it turned out, through the mayor talking to the Redmonds, found out we get the property back, which is great.
Yeah, they had some kind of a contract with Von Hart
Yeah.
where he was going to purchase it from them. He made the first couple of payments and then didn't pay anymore. And
But lived there.
they never went after him or anything because it was kind of, they were out of here. They didn't care. You know, they were, so,
So it turned out, I mean, I think it's gonna turn out to get rid of an eyesore, which is, that's what we want.
yeah.
But it turned out that the auditor over here, the people in that audit office, got involved, found out who owned the property, found out, because we had no way of even finding out because nobody was paying taxes on
No.
the property, so I didn't know who owned it. I mean, we had to actually research it and found out that the city actually gave it to the Red Man.
I don't know how we ever got it to start with. But yeah, we found the deed where we,
Where we donated it to the
Red.
Redmond Lodge back years ago,
So,
so now we're getting it back.
okay.
Mr. Ish gave it to him
Right,
for $1, I think.
yeah. Anybody have anything else in the Board of Works? If not, motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Oh, this is...
I'll be right back.